Welcome to Project U 2.2, the podcast where life and leadership meet endurance. I'm Greg Helmer, joined by my wife and partner in life and work, Carrie. Each week, we dive deep into the mindset, the neuroscience, and the real grit it takes to stop drifting and start living with clarity, confidence, and endurance. This is about real life, real struggles, and real growth. So lace up, it's time to live with endurance. This week, Carrie didn't ease into it. She called it out directly. Excuses are dream killers. They sound logical, they sound protective, but more often than not, excuses are just fear wearing a reasonable disguise. And the line that keeps echoing for me from Carrie is this: I can't isn't the truth. I won't is. You see, that line matters because can't makes us powerless. Won't gives us ownership. But here's something I want to add to Carrie's message, something that perhaps takes it a little bit deeper. Excuses aren't about laziness. They are about protection. Psychologically, excuses are emotional armor. They protect us from discomfort, from embarrassment, from the possibility that we might try and still struggle. When we say I can't, what we're often saying is I don't want to feel exposed, or I don't want to find out what happens if I really commit. You see, that's why eliminating excuses feels threatening. Because once you remove them, you are left with yourself, your choices, your effort, your follow-through, your ownership. Milestone 15 in my book, Lead with Endurance, is simple and it's unforgiving. It's titled Eliminate Distractions. Not because distractions are bad, but because distractions are where excuses hide. They let us feel busy while avoiding the commitment. I lived this lesson very personally over the last year. In January of 2025, I had foot surgery. No running, no shortcuts. January turned into February, February into March. No more running. Rehab. I finally started to do some walking. There was uncertainty, and I just longed to get back out on the roads to do some more running. And somewhere in that space, a thought surfaced. What if I did something bold? Something that demanded commitment instead of comfort. And so I registered for the Palm Beach Marathon this past December. And let's be honest, that decision was easy to second guess. From absolutely zero running in January to 26.2 miles less than a year later, only about 8 months later, there were plenty of logical, responsible sounding reasons to say, I can't. But the truth would have been, I won't try. And so instead of negotiating with excuses, I started eliminating the distractions. April, May, I was just walking. No glory, no rush. June and July were short, slow runs. August through November was incremental, building consistently, adding and increasing the mileage per week, moving my long runs from 6 miles, 8 miles, building all the way up to some 18 milers and 3 20-mile runs. I was adjusting without quitting. And then came the second scheduled 20-mile run, the one that really tested this whole idea. The forecast in Michigan was ugly. It looked like solid rain. 36 hours of straight cold rain. Windy, the kind of weather that gives you a very reasonable excuse to push a run back. And I thought about it briefly, but then I realized something important. This wasn't about toughness. It was about being honest. So I didn't cancel the run. I adjusted the run. I changed and altered the start time 3 or 4 different times. I staged some dry clothes. I set out extra running shoes. I knew I was going to get soaked, absolutely soaked. And so I accepted that before I even stepped outside, before I took the first step. Because the truth was, I didn't need perfect conditions. I needed that training stimulus. I needed the time on my feet. I needed to keep my word to myself. I needed to keep the training plan alive. That's the difference between excuses and endurance. Excuses ask, can I avoid this? Endurance asks, how do I adapt and still move forward? That same mindset followed me all the way to Florida. I trained in Michigan, and so I knew Florida weather was going to be a bit of a factor considering it was a December timeline for the race. I knew there would be heat, humidity, and dew points that would make the air feel very thick. And sure enough, a weather front moved through right before the race day. High humidity, dew points hovering around 70 degrees, and about 85 to 90% humidity. Again, perfect excuse conditions. But here's the thing, eliminating excuses doesn't mean ignoring the reality. It means respecting reality without surrendering to it. So I made some adjustments. I changed my hydration plan. I shifted my electrolyte plan. I adjusted my aid station strategy. And I adjusted expectations about my predicted pace. My average wasn't a robotic 8:30 per mile. It was a range from about 7:50 per mile to 9:10 pace. Because endurance isn't about forcing one outcome. It's about staying responsive without quitting. And that's the lesson Carrie was pointing us toward. Most of the time we don't fail because we lack ability. We fail because we refuse to adjust without emotionally checking out. We want perfect conditions or nothing. We want certainty or comfort. And when neither shows up, we let excuses take the microphone. Here's the deeper identity cost. When you eliminate excuses, you don't just risk failing, you risk discovering who you actually are. And that's terrifying for a lot of people because excuses stabilize our identity. Growth destabilizes it. When you stop saying, I can't, you are forced to confront effort, discipline, and truth. And that's where I believe real transformation lives. This applies far beyond running, leadership, parenting, our own health and well-being, relationships, careers. The organizations and people that grow aren't the ones with fewer obstacles. They are the ones that adapt without lowering the standards. So here's the invitation. Carrie and I are really extending this week. You don't need to eliminate every excuse. Just notice the one you rely on the most. The one that sounds the smartest. The one that's protecting you the longest. And ask yourself, is this impossible or just uncomfortable? You see, excuses, they keep us safe. Ownership makes us free. This is Project U 2.2. And this is where the version of you that can't becomes the version of you that does. This has been Project U 2.2, where we don't quit, we don't coast, and we don't surrender. If today helped, share it with someone who's been letting conditions decide for them. And every Wednesday at 6:22 a.m., Carrie brings the heartbeat of this work, mindset, growth, and the next brave step. Until next time, stay strong, stay real, and keep living with endurance. See you at 6:22.